So what we are actually intending to do is not to actually make you, raise your skills to undertake an economic evaluation. That is certainly not the stated objective with which I start off. The objective is basically to just sensitize you on what kind of information an economic evaluation can generate. Basically, that's one objective. And for you to, as health policy and systems researchers, to be able to identify the right kind of evidence and to interpret that evidence, that is another objective. And to identify the need for an economic evaluation in the first place also as is something that is required. So as researchers, if you can think of that, if there is a possibility, there is a need, then what should be done, this is important. Then who does it may not necessarily be you. It will be very good if you want to continue this further, take it on further and do it, but certainly. And then also as part of debates around the policy debates that happen and where people with economics background or economists are speaking, so you should be able to at least have a hang of what they are saying, what it means, and how do you use that for in your context for policy making or for systems strengthening. So that is the only purpose with, so take it with that kind of approach. Okay. So what we have covered so far is essentially a need for why we need efficiency assessment. Okay. This is what we started off with, that it is important to plan for resource allocation so that you invest wisely, so that you get the best value for return or for your money spent. The second thing that we said was that how to do that is to undertake an economic evaluation, which we said was basically a comparison across two different scenarios where you are looking at both the costs and consequences. And then we said that what are the different types of an economic evaluation, and we showed that big box where the full economic evaluation was down bottom there, and it had three types. And we said that what is the difference between those three types of evaluations is primarily dependent on how you value your consequences or outcomes. That depends on which design you are using. And that decision depends on what use is this evidence going to be put to. Is this evidence going to inform only a local decision within, supposing you are to only assess that what are the two different alternative forms of service delivery which can be implemented for a given program. Let's say I say which of the two models is better, having one A&M at a sub-center or two A&Ms at a sub-center. So the government of India came up with this approach of a second A&M. Is it actually a wise decision to invest that money on? If this was the question that you were trying to answer, and you are not looking at very broader questions on whether you want to do some comparisons across this and that, then what the outcomes could be measured in very simple terms also, like simple ANC coverages, immunization coverages, whatever you expect an A&M to do. So whatever are her tangible outputs, you can simply measure that. Was that you are looking at just two different forms of treatment administration, and you are just interested to know that which is better in terms of adherence rates. So simply looking at adherence rates, those could be the outputs. If these were the simpler outputs, then you are doing a cost effectiveness analysis, and the person to whom you take this evidence to is basically a very focal person who is going to take this evidence to use on a very limited basis within that program, looking at different alternatives of service delivery within a given program. But if you were to, for example, take this to a person who has a much broader questions to answer, whether to invest in child health or maternal health, whether to invest in TB control or NCD control, then probably you are mistaken in terms if you are undertaking a simple cost effectiveness analysis, and you at least need to do a cost utility analysis. So that's the essential reason. And why you want to do this in the first place is because you want to achieve efficiency in healthcare. Even the ones who are the proponents of the rhetoric of universal healthcare, They say that there are basically three approaches to achieving universal healthcare. One is to increase the extent of spending on healthcare, public spending on healthcare. Second is to reduce the private spending on healthcare. But the third and more important is also to get the best value for the money which is being spent on healthcare. So this third aspect of what is the best value for money being spent on healthcare is something that you can get only if you undertake an economic evaluation. So how wisely you are choosing your resources, and the example which was given in the morning also, within the resources, how well you mix the different resources, whether you want more of bicycles or whether you want more of nurses, whether you want to station an ambulance at a PHC or whether you want to station an ambulance at a CHC or a district hospital. Which is more efficient? Where is it that your unit cost is going to come down? Should an ambulance be transporting 5 patients a day, or should it be transporting 10 patients a day, or should it be transporting 1 patient a day? Those are the questions that are going to be answered through an economic evaluation. Is it more efficient to employ doctors, or is it more efficient to employ nurses to do primary care? The government is coming up with a very, the policies are sometimes very, this thing. One of the recent discussions that we have had, they are thinking about introducing an Ayush doctor at a sub-center level. It's a huge investment to make if that is the case, because the government was thinking, at least sometimes back, till the old minister was there, that promotion of Ayush was a major strategy. So having an Ayush doctor at every sub-center, do you think it is going to be a good idea? No, we can't say no directly. There could be pluses and minuses, but then what is the value of spending that much amount of resources versus if you don't spend on Ayush doctor and maybe you have another ANM or another something else? What that else could be, that is a big question mark. So these are the big questions that are going to be answered through an economic evaluation. Which evaluation to undertake will be dependent on what use are you going to put the evidence to. Another important aspect is which perspective do you take? Do you take a client or a patient's perspective? Do you take a health system's perspective, or do you take a societal perspective? What do these three things mean? If I were to undertake a cost effectiveness analysis and I was using a patient's perspective, then I would only focus on the costs incurred to the patient. Essentially meaning I am only going to count the out-of-pocket expenditure on the patient's side. If I was to use a health system's perspective, I would be looking at only the costs which the health system has to bear in order to provide those kinds of services. And if I was using a societal perspective, it would add up the two. It would include the costs to the patients as well as the cost to the health system, as well as any other costs. Which do you think should be the ideal perspective? Depends on the purpose. There's no golden rule. The golden rule says that use societal perspective, but that rule is basically so as to standardize practices, such that if you are comparing cost effectiveness of supposing cervical cancer screening, and you have two studies, if one study uses a societal perspective and the other one uses a health system perspective, then the results are not comparable. So for the sake of comparability, it is recommended that you use societal, plus because it incorporates everything. That's also an additional advantage. But the final answer, because ultimately whatever perspective you take boils down to the fact that amount of work that you have to do. In one instance, you have to only look at the cost of patients, the other side you have to look at the cost of health system as well, and the third side you have to look at the costs not only to patient in the hospitals, but maybe some other sectors as well. So what is the best way to say that which perspective should be taken? The best way is, what use are you going to put this evidence to? Now we were in a consultation, and the intervention in case was an HIV intervention, which was implemented in two or I think Andhra Pradesh primarily, and it was basically developing a consortium of private medical colleges to deliver ART care. ART care is antiretroviral therapy for HIV positive patients. This is medicines, provision of medicines. Now, ART care is basically delivered through public sector hospitals or public sector, and that too also not PHCs, CHCs, but at mostly at medical college level. Some secondary level hospitals have also been strengthened in order to provide their kind of link centers, ART link centers. So that, and since the epidemic in these southern Indian states is much more generalized, it is not just limited to urban areas, it is also there in the rural areas. So the idea of developing this consortium was because these private medical colleges are in the rural areas and you need a specialized center to provide ART care. You can't do this through a PHC or a CHC because which does not have a facility for CD4 testing and all. Ones who are doing the the intervention, they said, look, we are very clear. NACO as a organization would never fund private facilities for ART treatment. The only reason why we want to commission this research is because we want to see whether this intervention is cost effective from that hospital's perspective. That means the hospital was as such maybe not having enough patients. Now with this added ART care, which was earlier a stigma and people were not providing that care in those hospitals, ART treatment does not offer opportunity for hospitals for only care for ART or HIV, but HIV patients have other infections also. So they go to medicine department also, some of them might go to surgery department also, and likewise. So the overall bed occupancy of the hospital also improves, the overall utilization of hospital also improves, and likewise. So they said that the prime users of this evidence are going to be the other medical colleges, who can then find that if this is very cost effective to them, then they should also engage in this consortium and come up with this. So you see, the users of the evidence would determine the perspective that you take, and if medical colleges are going to be the users of this evidence, then you would rather take a health system's perspective, not even the patient's perspective, because they are not as much interested to know at how much savings does it incur to the patients, but they are much more interested in looking at how much is their cost, and then of course the outcomes in terms of patient survival and all. So it is primarily the use to which your evidence is going to put to, or the users of your evidence, which will determine the perspective that you take. So at the design stage itself, you have to sit back and think and decide why and for whom are you going to do this economic evaluation, and that determines the perspective. So what do? You assess the cost of healthcare services, wherein you look at the costs of both the healthcare sector, the patient and the family, and some other sectors, and this total makes up the overall cost of the healthcare program. What do you mean by the other healthcare sector? Other sector, sorry? Private education, very far-fetched. Anything else much more closer? Again, for example, you were looking at child health program. Now child health services, ICDS, Ministry of Women and Child. If your intervention was such that it was also involving those departments, allied department, pulse polio, the ICDS is also involved in that. Immunization, they are also involved. They also, when you are looking at a program, you are actually valuing all resources that went into delivering those services. All resources mean not only this is health sector, but other sectors as well. But this is taking a health societal perspective, looking at patient, other health sector and other sectors. And then you look at the consequences in terms of how the health of the patient changed. You could look at other values which are created. What are those other values? Consequence is not just the health. What else could be the consequence? You could make it employed. You had a program for child health. Let's say iron folic acid supplementation. Not only did it avert some healthcare problems among children, so there were less anemic children, and as a result there were less some of those morbidities, it also improved the school attendance. It improved their learning capacities. So you could try and estimate the value of that as well. So that comprises of other values. How you do that, I am not going to touch that. The third is there could be resources which are saved. Illnesses prevented as a result of prevention programs result in a lot of resources which are saved as a result of treatment of those illnesses. Had you not implemented a prevention program, you would have had n plus x amount of illness episodes, but now you have just n amount of illness episodes. So this extra x amount of illness episodes that you averted results in savings. And these savings could be again at all the three levels. It could be for the health sector, it could be for the patient and the family, and for the other sectors. So the net cost of program is actually C1, C2, C3 minus S1, S2, S3. Savings, you deduct the savings from the costs. And finally, you see these effects in terms of how the health state changed, and you come up with your final measure, which is your cost effectiveness ratio. So you have practically done your analysis, and you have the cost in the numerator and the effect in the denominator. Okay? So this is the entire flow of how you undertake a cost effectiveness analysis, and your effectiveness measures could be all these crude in a cost effectiveness analysis. In case of a cost utility analysis, you would rather be looking at something like a quality adjusted life year. So just replace that effectiveness with utility, quality adjusted life year. That's it. In case of a cost benefit analysis, the health state valuation that you are doing is in monetary terms. You remember the three forms: cost effectiveness, simple clinical or mortality indicators; cost utility, quality adjusted life year or DALYs; and cost benefit, you are valuing in terms of rupees, the health state, the improvement in health condition. So again, summarizing, you compared two programs, you looked at the costs and the effects of two programs. One is you simply assess the average cost effectiveness ratio, which is costs of A divided by effects of A, and costs of A, B minus cost divided by costs of B. But we started off saying that in most scenarios you don't have such programs which are undertaken in the absence of anything else. What you most often encounter are situations where you do incremental changes. Even if you have a new drug, mostly that drug is added to the previous combination. Even if you have a new program, public health is completely incremental. Very rarely you find a complete paradigm shift in terms of what you do, and you completely do away with what was there, or you didn't have anything and you now have something in place. So most of the times you are faced with choices which are incremental in nature. And when you are faced with choices of incremental in nature, what it means is that, for example, you had child health services being implemented. Now over and above the routine child health services, you added IMNCI as a strategy to improve the skills of healthcare providers. You gave training to healthcare providers so as to strengthen their abilities to diagnose sick children, manage sick children and all that. So what you estimate in that case is an incremental cost effectiveness ratio, which is the difference in costs of the two scenarios. That means you had UIP program and now you have UIP plus pentavalent. So you estimate the costs in both the scenarios and you deduct. So now what you have is the incremental cost of having introduced pentavalent vaccine, and in the denominator, let's say you have the number of children who died when you had UIP in place versus the number of children which died when you had UIP plus pentavalent in place. So this denominator gives you the additional lives saved with introduction of pentavalent vaccine. So this ratio tells you, and now is the key thing that you need to remember, because this is something that I expect you to remember: how much extra do you spend to get one additional benefit with this program as compared to the other program. So how much extra do you spend with when you introduce pentavalent vaccine as compared to the UIP program per additional child death prevented? When you have these measures, when you have this measure available, then you can look at this kind of evidence across a range of different interventions, and you can sort them in ascending order, starting from the least to the highest. So which one will you pick first? The highest or the lowest? The lesser you have to spend to avert a child mortality is better than higher that you have to spend. So one of the ways that you can plan using this kind of information is that you pick up the one which has the least ICER, and then what you can do is see that if you have to spend on this program, how much budget do you need. So supposing total you had 10 lakh rupees, 1 lakh is gone on when you picked up the first program. Then you pick up the second program, which was next in line of cost effectiveness. This program costed you 3 lakhs if you implemented. Now 4 lakhs are gone. And similarly you go on. So maybe by the fifth intervention, you have exhausted your 10 lakhs. So now what you chose were the top 5 most cost effective interventions. How are the effects? Are you achieving reduction in mortality or higher mortality with new program? Higher mortality. Effect difference is on the negative side. With new program, you are having more mortality, less health. And what about the cost? High cost, less effects. What do you want to do with this? You have better effects at a lesser cost. This is the best scenario you can have. With the new program, you are achieving reductions in mortality with a lesser cost. So this is a dominant approach. We will certainly take it up. What if you are here? What do? Less effects and less costs. It is basically the best ways to do a societal valuation. How much are you willing to pay for preventing a child to die, and how much are you and you and you? So I ask each one of you, how much are you willing to pay to prevent a child death? In other words, you are assigning a value to a child's death or averting a child's death. So if my incremental cost is less than this societal valuation for a child's death, then I would implement this intervention, because the society values this prevention of this health event more than the cost. So the benefits are more than the cost. If there is anything which costs less than the GDP per capita of the country, the incremental cost, the value of ICER, then this is very cost effective in that country context. Anything which ranges between 1 to 3 times, anything which ranges from 1 to 3 times the GDP per capita is still cost effective, and anything beyond not cost effective in that country context. So I'll stop at that, and there's one at the bottom which I listed, but I didn't say that it is cost minimization analysis. It is nothing but a type of design which it is a theoretical kind of classification which exists, not very common in practice, because this is something that you will employ when you know that the effectiveness of 2 different comparators is exactly the same. So in that case, if the effectiveness is the same, then the only thing that you need to look at is the cost, and you compare the costs. So the one which has the lower cost, you use that. So that's a cost minimization.